There have been so many DLCs released recently, including the highly anticipated Elden Ring Shadow of Erdtree DLC, which everyone's playing. Alan Wake 2 has DLC, Redfall wanted to have DLC, and Ray Reviews still wakes the deep. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Just Because Gaming. My name is Michael.
And I'm Ray.
And thank you for joining us. So, one of the first things that we wanted to talk about right off the gate is the new Elden Ring Shadow of Erdtree DLC. Everyone's been talking about it, and anyone that's even slightly interested in Elden Ring has been excited about it. Friends of mine and friends of my wife, there's people that are taking off from work and being like, I think I'm sick, just to stay home and play this new Elden Ring DLC, the Shadow of Erdtree. For this DLC, it takes place in the realm of Shadow, and one of the reasons why that this DLC is so important is because it's the only DLC that's come out for Elden Ring, and it looks like it's going to be the only DLC for Elden Ring, because other than that, there's been a lot of talk that they're just going to start working on the next Elden Ring, Elden Ring 2. So this is going to be its one and only DLC, and honestly, I can't even be mad at it because the original Elden Ring came out quite a bit ago. I don't know exactly how long. It's been a year or two, I think. And yeah, there's been, clamoring for a DLC. People have wanted to play more of Elden Ring, and they waited and took their sweet time, and now everyone's amped to play it. And yeah, I can't say anything. I mean, I've played a little bit of Elden Ring, because it is very Dark Souls esque, and I got so frustrated with the first Dark. I did beat the first Dark Souls, but I never
Really, you
went
beat
back.
it? See, I tried it when it first came out, and I like at the very beginning of it, I couldn't even figure out where I was supposed to go. I was so confused with this game, and I ended up just putting it down and walking away. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. There's like no instruction, no. Usually there's something that kind of shows you a path. Elden Ring did. I mean, Dark Souls did not have any of that. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? And then any of the combat, I was just getting annihilated. I'm like, I must be missing something big in this game. So I ended up playing something else and never going back to it. But they're nice looking games and they look like a lot of fun, but I suck at them.
The thing about Dark Souls is there are directions in there. Like, you'll find a body and it'll say, that the body was destroyed by this great person in the area, and you have to find them. And there'll be like clues as to where to go. Because, I mean, yes, otherwise you could just be roaming around and getting attacked by like swarms of whatever. That has happened to me where like I'll be way outside my level and I'll see, a swarm of, I don't even remember what they are now because it's been so long since I've played Dark Souls, but you'll see like a swarm of something and they'll get like triggered that you're there and they'll just rush you and you'll be trying to fight like, five or six or seven things and you will get bodied.
Oh yeah, as I remember from that game, it didn't matter if it was a boss or a little minion; they can all take you down.
Yeah. Yeah, they do try to be realistic. Like, yeah, in real life, if you have to fight like five or six guys, probably not going to be in your favor. So they do try to make it realistic where you're not like just super overpowered all the time. All that to say, with Elden Ring, from the little bit that I do know about it, because like I said, I have a tendency to like dabble with games. Like I'll play a little bit and I'll be like, oh, this is interesting, this is cool, and then I'll get distracted. Colorful red ball or beautiful butterfly, and I get distracted and do something else, end up putting down the game forever. Um, and with Elden Ring, it's definitely one of those. Um, I actually played it at a relative's house with a brother-in-law, and I played it under his profile, and I mean it was cool. It was very much Dark Souls like, but the thing that I like about Elden Ring is it's very straightforward with the game. Like, all the achievements are like beat this person, beat this person, beat this person. There are some collectibles. It's armaments, ashen remains, sorceries and like spells and stuff, and talismans. And honestly, for those four collectible types, there's like less than 10 of each. So it's nothing crazy. You know, it's not like Assassin's Creed where you have to collect 110 feathers or something.
And
So
they're scattered everywhere and hard to find. And
yeah, and you have to like jump from roof to roof or something, or like some of the achievement, or not achievements, but for some of the skulls in Halo. And I remember you had to do a grenade boost jump where you throw a grenade right at your feet and then jump right as it explodes to get some of these
yeah,
skulls. It's ridiculous.
and
But
yet I
yeah,
still did it.
yeah, no, dude, me too. But you don't have to do that for Elden Ring. So,
No.
if some of you haven't played Elden Ring yet and are interested, I would say go for it, because the price of Elden Ring has dropped a little bit to compensate for the Shadow of Erdtree DLC. I think it's dropped by like $10. So
Hmm.
instead of paying like $69.99 for Elden Ring, it's $59.99. Or if you want the one that comes with Shadow of Erdtree, it's $79.99. So like for an extra $10, you get this big DLC that everyone's been waiting for. And I'm thinking about I'm thinking about doing it, just because now it's like the full package, and they're not gonna do any more Elden Ring until they make Elden Ring 2. So yeah, I'm definitely interested. I might give it a shot.
Yeah, it does sound interesting. But since we're talking about DLCs, I'm going to talk about Alan Wake 2's Night Springs DLC, which, if you've played any of the Alan Wake games, in the first one they had, you walk up, you see a little TV playing, and have Night Springs, a little TV show, it's kind of like a Twilight Zone or that kind
Yeah,
of thing. It was just their version of it. They were actually kind of cool to sit there and watch the episodes. Some of them were pretty interesting and
yeah,
entertaining.
dude. Me and you did that. We
Yeah,
watched the Night Springs.
yeah. But evidently, Alan Wake 2 didn't have a lot of that, the TVs to watch or anything in the game itself. So they've created a DLC where you get to play basically three different episodes, and they're really short, but as three different characters, and you're in, the town, and they're just like Night Springs episodes. They're Twilight Zone and crazy. Like the first one is called Number One Fan, and you play as a waitress, and the waitress gets a message from Alan Wake to come and help him and rescue him, but he's talking through. Remember those robotic Billy Bass fish that would sing on the wall and
Hmm.
talk on the wall? He's talking through one of those. So she takes
Okay.
off with a shotgun and a whole lot of ammo in her waitress uniform and goes out to rescue him. Now this takes place during like right at dusk, so it's not dark out, so you're not having to use a flashlight to like burn off the darkness off of the bad guys. You can just blast them away at them. Much more action and fast paced than the other episodes.
Hmm.
The following episode after that would be North Star, which you play as Jesse from Control. If you remember that series, the Control series.
Oh
I don't know if you ever played
yeah.
that or not, but yeah, you play as her, but you don't have all your powers and everything. Basically, you're armed with a flashlight and a pistol, and you're looking for your brother who has disappeared, and you're going through this coffee amusement park that's in the Alan Wake 2 game,
Hmm.
looking, trying to find out what happened to your disappeared brother. Then the third one is called Time Brancher, and you play as was it Sean Ashmore is the actor, and it starts out you're like filming a sequence playing the character you played in Alan Wake 2. He plays Sheriff Breaker, and as you're doing your little stuff with the director from the actual game, like you're making a new sequence for a new game, and then he gets kind of Twilight Zoned into an alternate timeline thing, and he's got to do a whole lot of combat, and it just sounded interesting. That one there, from what I've heard, it described as kind of Max Payne like, where they had like it kind of goes into like the comic book segments, and then it
Hmm.
goes into the gameplay for the story. So I'm intrigued by it because I like the games, Alan Wake and all that. I haven't played Alan Wake 2 yet, and now that they've got this DLC that looks really cool out, I kind of want to jump into that. I just haven't had a chance to get it.
Honestly, dude, I haven't even touched Alan Wake 2. I remember you actually introduced me to the first Alan Wake game, and I got addicted to that. And
Oh
then I
yeah,
think after that, wasn't it like Alan Wake, like American Nightmare or something like
American
that?
Nightmare. Yeah, I think that was a DLC as well.
Oh, I thought that was like a side game, like not an official like Alan Wake game, but like something on the side. Because I could have swore it was like separate. Because I don't remember
It
loading up
might have
Alan
been. I
Wake
don't
1 for
remember.
that.
Yeah, I don't remember now. But it wasn't very long. It was a very short thing. That's what
Yeah,
makes
no,
me
it
think it
was
was
it was almost like a
DLC.
standalone DLC, like
Yeah,
a mini game kind of.
yeah.
And I remember I had fun with both of those, but
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Is Alan Wake 2 on Game Pass?
No, no. It's something
Oh,
you'd have to purchase.
oh,
And I know you can purchase like the Ultimate Edition, which I think comes with the DLC and all. It's like $79.
Hmm.
but it won all kinds of awards at the Game Awards and that kind of thing. I mean, it was a highly regarded game. It just kind of got skipped. I just kind of missed it when it came out and haven't had a chance to go back and purchase it and get it. And
Yeah.
it really hasn't gone on sale for like, usually you see these games have been out for, I think the game's been out almost a year now and it hasn't dropped in price really.
Yeah. I mean, Alan Wake is one of those games where it's like underground popular. It's not like a Halo or a Gears or something. But for the people that are familiar with the Alan Wake series, they friggin' love it. I don't honestly think I've found anybody that has a lot of negative stuff to say about Alan Wake, because it definitely takes a different spin on like your normal point and shoot game.
Oh yeah. And the stories are just intriguing, they're interesting and they put a lot of good humor in their story as well, and it's just fun.
Yeah, it's definitely got a great story, and it's very original. I would have
Hmm.
never thought about a game where you shoot people with a flashlight. Like that's part of like getting, like, killing the monsters or shadows or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
you got to burn
Having
the
to use the
darkness off of
flashlight
the
first.
people.
What's that?
You got to burn the darkness with the light off of the people before you can actually shoot them with the pistol for it to do any good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's very unique gameplay that you haven't. Nobody's done anything like that before. Not to
exactly.
mention you're
Yeah,
playing as a writer whose story is trying to kill him.
yeah. Honestly, that game, Alan Wake, for whatever reason, it really reminds me of Stephen King.
Hmm.
And the fact that there's uh, one of the DLCs called Number One Fan. I don't know if you are familiar with this story, right? But there's this Stephen King story called Misery,
Oh yeah, I know.
where the writer's chained to a bed, and that one actress, I can't remember her name right now, but she's a famous actress. She has him chained, and she's like, "I'm your number one fan." So like that's what that title reminds me of, is that
Right.
movie Misery. And I shouldn't say movie because it's a book, but I saw it as a movie.
It was also a movie.
Yeah, book/movie. But so aside from successful DLCs, there's been a lot of news about an unsuccessful DLC, which is Redfall. And with Redfall, Arcane Studios was shut down. And amidst all those studio shutdowns, Arcane Studios was one of them, and they make Redfall. And they had an edition called the Bite Back Edition, and that one was about $25 to $30 more. And because of that, Xbox and Steam, or I shouldn't say Xbox, but Microsoft and Steam have been having to refund people money, because for the Bite Back Edition, they're just not creating DLC for it. Kind of like what you said in our last podcast, Ray, where people will make these season passes and stuff, and then something happens, and those season passes are worthless. This is that exact scenario with Redfall.
Right.
And um, both Microsoft/Xbox as well as Steam has been having to issue tons of refunds. Now it's only like $27, I think it was, but just the sheer amount of those has been devastating.
Hmm. I'm surprised that really that many people bought Redfall. I mean, it was on Game Pass, so if you had Game Pass, I played it. I played it all the way through, and it felt like a game that they didn't really finish because it just didn't have. It was missing a lot. It seemed like the world was kind of empty, but the game basic idea of the game was pretty good. It just needed to be a single player game, or even maybe co-op would have been fine. The whole, oh, we can get together with four people and go through this. No, I went through it fine by myself, and it was not that difficult or that bad. Or the storyline itself wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't bad. It was an interesting idea. The vampires, I really liked the vampires. They did a good job with the enemies you did fight. So it had potential to have been good. It just, I think they just went the wrong way with it by trying to make another four-person co-op game. We don't need that. Single player would have been perfect.
Yeah, and honestly, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because when I saw that it's a game with vampires, I was like, oh, thank God it's not another zombie shooter. But apparently, dude, apparently people just want zombie shooters, because this isn't a zombie shooter, it's a vampire shooter. And I'm like, okay, a little bit different with the horror genre. And it kind of bums me out that, you know, that they tried to make something that wasn't zombies, and it flopped. Well, it's not that it flopped. I should take that back. It's not that it flopped. It's that it wasn't supported. And I think it's Microsoft Studios that owned Arcane Studios and, shut them down in there.
Well,
mass exodus.
it was a ZeniMax Bethesda studio, so
Yeah,
it came with that acquisition.
yeah,
But it just there was, from what I understand, was a lot of trouble within in the studio, a lot of discord between the people developing it. They had to bring in a bunch of people into the studio because they hadn't made a game that was multiplayer. They had multiple people in there. They'd done Dishonored and that series and things like that, and they'd been
yeah,
good single player campaigns.
yeah. You think maybe that for Redfall they just bit off more than they can chew?
Very possibly. I think maybe if they'd had more time too. I think they were kind of rushed to get this out because Xbox hadn't released anything from a first party studio or anything like that. They needed a release, and this was supposed to be one of these big things that was like, oh, look at this. This is our new big release from a Bethesda studio, and yeah, it needed to cook for another year or so.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, the two games that I personally talked about, it's funny because one is an example of how you succeed, and one is an example of how you fail. Because for Redfall, it seems like they were trying to do too much too fast, and it bit them in the ass. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. And then for Elden Ring, they took their sweet time. They took their sweet time with the game. They took their sweet time with the DLC, and it's been a home run each time. So I feel like the lesson that hopefully is teaching the developers is take your time, not Elder Scrolls and Fallout time, not that long. You don't need to take a decade, but take your time and release something good and something high quality. Don't rush through it and produce something that's kind of half-assed. Produce something
Yeah.
that's whole-assed.
I mean, especially if you're producing a AAA game kind of thing, it needs to really hit because the production, the cost, and all that. If it doesn't hit, your studio is going to get closed. You've got to make a good game when you're putting that kind of money into it. Some of these
Yeah, and
smaller indie game things, yeah, if it doesn't make it, what did it cost them? Not that much. They could produce another one in a year. It's not that big a deal.
yeah, and honestly, for a game like Redfall, I feel like it had the potential to be, a AAA game. I mean, it was a new entry, so there's really no expectations for it. I mean, it could flop, it could be the next AAA game, but because they rushed it so much, they kind of lost that opportunity. But I feel like from the experience that I've had with Redfall, that it had that opportunity, it had that possibility to be a AAA game if they would have taken their time and done more polish to it. You know, what do you
Yep.
think? Do you think it could have been a AAA contender?
Oh yeah, it definitely had the possibility to go that road. Like I said, it needed more content to it, more filling out of the world, and it would have been good. And it just needed to be a single player game, and they could have put more resources into that instead of spending so much on creating. I played as one of the characters. I didn't try playing through with each of the characters. I'm not going through this again. I don't care
And
that much.
and honestly, I mean, with all the games that are coming out, it makes sense to slow down the pace, because like if you've seen our previous videos or podcasts or however you get this show, you would know that there have been 30 announcements from Xbox, 15 or 16 from PlayStation, and really, you don't need to do all that. You don't need to be going so extra with all these games. Take your time. It's okay if there were only like 5 or 10 games each. You don't need to do 15 and 30. I would rather see PlayStation and Xbox both only present like 10 games, but they're all like super polished and super well done. I know not every game can be a AAA game, but if you treat every game like it could be, then that's just even more high quality. I personally am a person for quality over quantity, and it seems like
Right.
for 2024 and 2025 we're getting a lot of quantity, and I want to see just like really well polished games. Like it's gonna upset me if I get that new Assassin's Creed and there's glitches like there were previously where people's faces weren't showing up and everything. So yeah, I just want to see a lot of polish in the games because I feel like with that, with taking your time and having really well polished games will sell better. And when games sell better, studios survive.
Yes. I mean, we saw that with CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk. When it first came out, it was really, I mean, game breaking glitchy. People were having all kinds of troubles with that. And even now, I come into glitches and stuff in there. Had one the last time I was playing it, where you walk into this, it's like a nightclub. Everybody's naked. It didn't render any of the clothing. I'm going, all right, this is not what I was expecting. Are they supposed
I
to be
didn't know it
this
was this
way?
kind of club.
Because it's not like it was just a few of them. everybody was naked. I'm like, okay. But then I came back to there another time, like, okay, now it looks like it's supposed to look. Everybody's normal and clothed again. Like, that was
Dude,
a
I
weird
would have had
glitch.
fun with it. I would have, you know what I would have done? I would have recorded my gameplay for that and be
I
like,
should have.
I didn't know this club was a strip club. I guess what it is that all the like clothing layers didn't populate for whatever reason.
For some
But
reason, yeah. But yeah, it's things like that. And they've made that game to where it works good now. But it's taken them at least, what, 2 years to really get it up and running properly?
and
Whereas if
all
they'd have
that
just
really
taken
is
another year or so of development, maybe they wouldn't have had all this problem.
exactly. It just needed to spend more time cooking in beta, to get tested thoroughly. But instead
Yeah.
they rushed. And I mean, to a certain degree for Cyberpunk, I understand why it was rushed because it was promised for so long and they were like, "Okay, we finally have the game stable." But stable and, high quality are not the same thing.
Right. And it's a really good game. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a great game. If you haven't played Cyberpunk, you've got to play that game. It is just fun all the way through it. The side missions are even good in that. It's great. I really enjoyed that one. And the DLC. What was it? Liberty something. I forgot the name of it now. But it was really
Yeah,
good
no, I,
too.
I know what you're talking about. The latest DLC for Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
It's Liberty something. I want to say Liberty City, but I'm thinking of Grand
No,
Theft
that's
Auto.
not
But
it. Phantom Liberty. That's it. It's Phantom Liberty. Another game that's actually come out on Game Pass recently, but it's on all platforms. It's on PlayStation and everything as well. Is Still Wakes the Deep 2, and that's a fairly recent release. It's a horror genre, kind of a horror survival thing where it takes place. You're working out on an oil rig in 1975 in the North Sea, and of course, it starts out you're just working. It's a normal day on the oil rig, and then some unknown, unnameable horror that you don't know what it is creates disaster, and you're basically going through here trying to survive and figure out what's going on and get out. But it's one of those games that's supposed to have been the first one got pretty good critically um, accolades for it, where people really seem to like it. And if you like the horror genre, it tends to be a good game series for you. I'm gonna try it out since it is on Game Pass, and I kind of like those horror games. That most of them are pretty good, so I'm gonna check it out and see what it is, and then maybe next episode I'll have a report on, hey, this game was. But watch the trailer, check it out. It looks like it's gonna be kind of a good storyline and horror genre game.
all right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us through any of the podcast platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can find us on a whole bunch of social media. It should be linked in the comments below. And you can also support us on Patreon, which we're starting up a second giveaway option where you can either subscribe to us on YouTube, and once we reach 50 subscribers, we'll start giving stuff away, or with 20 Patreon uh, subscribers. So with Patreon, the lowest tier support is $5 a month, not a whole lot of money. But once we reach 20 subscribers on Patreon, as opposed to the 50 on YouTube, we'll start a second giveaway there. So you'll have two ways to win a gift card or whatever we're doing at the time. Um, YouTube with 50 subscribers and Patreon with 20. Those will be two separate giveaways. So once we reach either of those numbers, we'll start giving stuff away on that platform. Other than that, you can always go to the justbecausegaming.com website and you can see articles, the podcasts, and also the calendar of games. So for every month where games are released, they'll all be listed there.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and just check us out. Thanks.
All right, peace.